All right, we got to talk about it. What the heck is going on with Ledger and their newest firmware update soon to come? What does this mean for all Ledger users? What does this mean for the security of hardware wallets in general? I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'm going to talk about basically the update, who it affects, steps moving forward, what to be aware of, and my opinions. Welcome to Crypto Tips. Today is not my most favorite at all video to make, but probably a very, I know this to be a very important video to be publishing out. So thank you everyone for tuning in and for being aware of what's happening with self-custody and with the largest hardware wallet company that should be at the forefront of this. So right off the bat, Ledger is rolling out a new recover tool service. Basically, this is like the number one fear of new people coming into cryptocurrencies is that what if I lose my private key? What if I lose all my crypto? Where is the help desk that will help me get it back? And Ledger, trying to appeal to the masses, the people who don't know any better, the people who don't understand the importance of self-custody. They're trying to appeal to them by unleashing this new tool that requires things like KYC, which is proving your identity over the owner of private keys. And also, not just that, but also like having a video, FaceTime probably type of experience to prove your identity. And what this process means is basically you have your ledger, you have your seed phrase that you've generated, and let's say you're a crypto newbie and you want to have help, and you want to have a backup plan in case you lose that. What you're going to do is you're going to, having had this firmware update, and if you're buying a new ledger, this might already automatically be installed on your device, especially if you're buying a Ledger Nano X, which currently is the only Nano device available for this firmware update. Where you will, if you want to do this service, it's an additional $9.99 a month for this service. And what you're going to do is on your device and on your Ledger Live, you're going to say that you want to do this service, you want to opt into this, and you will confirm this on your device. And they're saying that's going to create the ability for your device to generate a backup of your recovery phrase. It will encrypt that additional backup in a certain way that will basically encrypt. It will turn your ledger into a multi-sig type wallet where 3 out of the 2 signatures will be required to regain access to your coins if you were to lose them. The 3 entities being Ledger, CoinCover, and a third company that they are not publicly announcing on their website, at least. I'm not sure if they said this in their announcement on Twitter. I think I read somewhere on Twitter, someone found what that third company is. But the fact that it's just 2 out of the 3 that they're being public about is enough to raise some suspicions. Let's say you lost your recovery phrase, and so you go to Ledger, you say, okay, I need to enact this assisted backup, and Ledger and CoinCover or the other company can come forward and combine these fractioned and encrypted forms of your backup together to give you your coins back. Here is where a lot of skepticism, concerns, and fear is coming from Ledger users. People who've always been vocal against Ledger, especially, are being very loud. But here's my point, is that even as someone who's a diehard Ledger fan, we should always be skeptical about anything that we cannot verify. And Ledger has been great. It's a hardware wallet that I've supported for years. I've talked about it. I've suggested it as an option for people to use as their hardware wallet device to secure their cryptocurrencies because I've used Ledger. It's a first and basically only hardware wallet that I use most often, in fact. That might be changing very soon, unfortunately, but we always have to stay on our toes, right? And being skeptical is what will keep us and our cryptocurrencies secure in a sovereign self-custody fashion. So again, a quick recap. This is for those of you who are already Ledger users. This is going to roll out in the newest firmware update. So if you don't want anything to do with this, don't update your Ledger firmware. Additionally, this is only going to be allowed for right now for the Ledger Nano X version or device, soon to be the Ledger Nano S Plus and the Ledger Stacks, but it will not be able to be applied to the Ledger Nano S. So for those of you who are still holding on to that OG Ledger device, you might be in the clear, although I know that those devices are pretty old by now and maybe a little bit dilapidated. So I think if you are a user of a Ledger Nano S, count yourself lucky at this point, because right now we don't know the new attack vectors that this is going to unleash for Ledger users. I'm trying my best not to instill any kind of FUD or panic. I'm just trying to keep you guys updated so that you can make an educated decision on where you're going to hold your cryptos. Now, this whole ability of, this is where the controversy comes from with Ledger, is because Ledger software is completely open source. Everything about Ledger is open source except their secure element, which is the little physical chip that they have in their hardware wallet devices. This is closed source. So because of that, there's always been a requirement or a level of trust with Ledger hardware wallets. Now for me, my own peace of mind with Ledger has always been in the fact that they've been around since 2014 and have never suffered a hack from their hardware wallet devices. Their devices have never been hacked. And so for me, that is still a positive in that there's now these accusations that this secure element maybe has always had a backdoor, or at the very least, this firmware will allow it to have a backdoor, because there's these concerns where this recovery system service will allow your chip in your device to not only generate your seed phrase, which is what it normally does, but also to export that seed phrase to these other third parties. That is the huge concern. That's because that's something that Ledger time and again, and in fact, in their announcement on Twitter about this new recovery service, they've said about 3 or 4 times, the CTO said that the secure element chip, or the chip, does not have access to your recovery phrase. It cannot send your recovery phrase elsewhere. It begs the question, well then how are these fragmented private keys essentially being sent to these third parties? Is it from the chip, or is it the user that has to physically send this private key basically to these third parties? Either way, this is where my disappointment comes in, because in my opinion, Ledger is, and has been, maybe that's changing right now in my opinion, a cornerstone of self-custody and cryptocurrency, and a company that helps people take real true ownership over their cryptocurrency, and should be at the forefront of that type of education. Now they're going soft, in my opinion, very, very soft. And at the end of this video, I'm going to explain why that might be happening with some recent regulations coming out of Europe. But now they're saying, you know what, we need to be more marketable to the masses. We need to appeal to the masses. So now what we're seeing is one of the greatest crypto companies, in my opinion, are succumbing to the pressures of the masses instead of trying to encourage these people to rise up to this ability to self-custody their cryptocurrencies. Instead of, you know, they're not trying to now educate people on the importance of self-custody. They're saying, you know what, I know it's really hard. Why don't you trust third parties who you don't know personally and who can very easily be changed in the future if these companies were to go out of business, if these companies were to suffer data breaches themselves. These companies, not to mention this whole multi-sig recovery service requires 2 out of 3 to come together to sign to gain access to your coins. That's a pretty small number for multi-sig, not to mention the fact that they are now publicly announced for the world to know, for governments to know, for hackers to know. If they wanted to target or put pressure on these companies to fork over information for the sake of, let's say, national security or whatever reason they might want to portray, to gain instant access to the fact that not only you own crypto, but this is your private key, and they have your name, full KYC information, a video of your face, basically saying, yes, this is really me, this is really my cryptocurrencies. There's a whole lot of conflict of interest here that I am really turned off by, and I am not alone. And I have to apologize if this does end up being the worst case scenario for Ledger. Then, you know, I've only done as much as I can based on what I've known about this company, and it was always in good faith, basically, and always in an effort to help you self-custody. So if Ledger isn't the end-all be-all, which it never really was, but it is, maybe was, I don't know, my tenses are going to be mixed up here a little bit. One of the best hardware wallets, especially for things like decentralized exchanges and DeFi. It had a ton of interoperability and integrations on a lot of innovative new cryptocurrency platforms. So you know what the next best option is, and maybe the first best option right now, is Trezor. I think that Trezor is going to be probably inundated with orders at this point because Trezor is 100% open source. There are pros and cons to this. Now, the pros of Ledger having the secure element being closed source is that it's never been hacked. Trezor, several years back, during a hackathon, basically was found out to have a type of vulnerability where if your Trezor is in the hands of someone who has a very specialized type of computer for, let's say, 15 minutes, and they have your Trezor device, they do not have your private key, they do not have your password, they could basically brute force into your Trezor device. So Trezor isn't the end-all be-all hardware wallet, but in my opinion, it still is very, very good and secure option, because especially if you're able to secure your actual device in a very good way that keeps it out of the hands of someone who might have a super powerful, capable computer able to make that hack happen. I think Trezor is an excellent resource. Also, Cold Card is another one that's been talked about. I think it's specifically for Bitcoin. Most other hardware wallets are specific for Bitcoin and don't have so much interoperability with things like DeFi, staking, decentralized exchanges. Before I go into all of that, maybe that will be the next video, or a video in the future, of next steps and best hardware wallets that are an option for you guys. I've done tutorials on Trezor in the past. If you guys want to check that one out, there's also a link you can just go to trezor.io and order your own hardware wallet there. I have an affiliate link down below if you want to help support this channel with Trezor. I'm really trying to keep an even mind here in that we don't know everything. Maybe this announcement from Ledger wasn't as best plan as it could have been. I don't think they shed a lot of information, especially considering the fact that most of Ledger users are pretty intelligent in terms and literate in terms of cryptocurrencies, and so they can see these huge red flags for what they are. Is Ledger sacrificing their old customer base in favor of trying to be marketable for the millions and hundreds of millions of masses that they're kind of slobbering after to get in their market share? So anyway, we're still figuring out the best case scenario. We're trying to get as much information as we can, and I'm sure I'm going to be making several updated videos for this. We haven't heard a whole lot from Ledger themselves in regards to this backlash there. Now, what I mentioned earlier in today's video is, could this be that Ledger is being pressured by regulators, by governments around the world, to the need to identify who owns which cryptocurrency wallets? And that has a lot to do with the new MiCA regulations coming out of Europe. That'll be tomorrow's video, so if you guys want to learn more about those crazy new regulations and my thoughts, and if they're actually going to be able to be enforced and what that means for crypto users in Europe, go ahead and hit subscribe, because that video is coming out tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. If you guys appreciated this update, I know it's not good news, but it's much more important, in my opinion, to keep you guys updated rather than make you feel super good about yourself all the time. I think it's much more important to be educated. And furthermore, I just want to end this video with always the reminder that you guys are absolutely capable of self-custody. That is where we should be elevating ourselves and our expectation, because coddling new cryptocurrency users is a disservice to those users and to the cryptocurrency industry as a whole. Let's be better, let's do better, let's self-custody and do so in a safe manner. Is Ledger still that option? I don't know yet. I'll keep you posted. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.